Graham Hunter is with us. Graham, good morning to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. And I wasn't anywhere in the list, I guess.
Fifth, I think. Just off.
Thank you. Take it.
Pele versus Cristiano.
Do you know, listen, because I wasn't privileged to come into the beginning of a discussion, I don't know if you recounted the thing that I have told you before, but given Damien's boldness, it was always Ronaldo's wish to be listed as the best footballer of all time. One of the things that the great debate has ignored when it's been, oh, Messi does this, Ronaldo does this, the number of trophies, oh, la, 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 was that Cristiano set himself that goal of being... Messi has always just been an inconvenience to him until they fell in love a couple of seasons ago and augmented that when they went to when they're playing in two different countries. It's now a real kissy fest, isn't it? You know, I miss you and I miss you. Walter Di Salvo was a contact of mine when he was at Manchester United and then subsequently at Real Madrid as fitness conditioning coach. He's now over at the Aspire Academy in Qatar. And he was, by a long distance, Ronaldo's closest confidant at Old Trafford. And it was Walter Di Salvo who shared to me one time in an interview that, you know, Cristiano's goal is to be regarded as the greatest footballer of all time. And I don't know if you saw like this mad relationship that George Mendes and Cristiano have. Mendes recently, he wins this award every year, doesn't he? I don't know what it's called, Globe or Globo or whatever. However he's playing, there's this award somewhere out in the desert that Cristiano wins, and Mendes is the best agent every year. And they pick up the trophies and they love that kind of nonsense. And Mendes I saw recently going, you know, Cristiano's still by far the greatest player of all time. So, you know, I'm not saying Damien's, you know, in the Mendes stable or is under any kind of Portuguese influence, but there are people who genuinely want that to be the case, that to be the argument that Cristiano's, and really in terms of pure football, never mind trophies won, like that little old joke about he's not even the best Ronaldo is true, because Brazilian Ronaldo as a footballer, and some would say even in terms of what he displayed, given that none of the three of us would talk Cristiano down in that he has been an amazing athlete. He's been an amazing boon to people who earn their living like we do. Spectators all over the world have been given countless thrills from him. And he's a master of theatre because he loves centre stage. Yeah. And my respect for him is huge. But he in football terms, he's the lesser of the two Ronaldos.
Well, that's interesting, because I did want to ask you about the real Ronaldo. It's 9:05 for anybody just tuning in. We're talking with Graham Hunter here on OTB AM. I'm going to get to talk to the real Ronaldo at the Web Summit in about 10 days' time. He's picking up the same award that George Mendes got last year, funnily enough, speaking about awards. And it got me thinking about, like, where is his place in the world game at the moment? Because he kind of becomes a little bit forgotten about when you consider that for that period between, I don't know, 93, 94, whenever he burst on the scene at PSV, all the way up to the end of the World Cup in 2002, like, we all want to see him play. We're desperately concerned about the fate of his knee and how his career might not actually end up fulfilling itself, and then ultimately it does.
I think the period lasts longer, Ger, in that... you know, at Real Madrid, once he'd healed at Inter and went to Real Madrid, although he was a little bit rounder, certainly bigger than he was at PSV, when he was the most amazing athlete. You know, he won the title at Real Madrid. There were goals just flooded off his boot. And he still played brilliantly until age and just that slight weight gain that he had at the latter stage of his playing career caught up with him. So I would go that from, you know, before he reaches PSV, when we didn't know of him, you know, there wasn't the internet there, the coverage of Brazilian football wasn't fantastic, but through to his days at Real Madrid when he was exceptional, you know, the period lasted longer when he could do anything with a defender. He could do it. His finishing, I think, you know, I'd love to have been able to see like the massive Swedish trio, Granoli trio, at AC Milan, who scored goals for fun, who I don't think none of us saw live, and there isn't footage of them, particularly Nils Lidholm. And you know, there have been others, Huey Gallagher. I wasn't old enough to see Jimmy Greaves at his absolute height. I grew up watching Gert Muller, and his finishing power was extraordinary. But Ronaldo one-on-one with a keeper, I can't remember him failing, and I can't remember not enjoying the finish. It was a show all in itself, irrespective of his power, his ability to turn on a sixpence, how many players he would run past, how many players he could hold off. He finished, in my opinion, like a brilliant snooker player. The ball was always arrowed away diagonally. He seemed to have this perception, Brazilian Ronaldo, of if I put this diagonally now across the goalkeeper, his weight's on his right foot, so I'll put it to his right because he's just using his right foot to push to his left and vice versa. The finishing, it was preternatural what he could do. He was fantastic to watch. He was a really elegant footballer who, at his best, his feet didn't seem to touch the ground. He glided over the ground. A total package, and I watched. I was reporting then. I was lucky enough to meet him, to be at some of his games, both internationally and for at least 2 club sides I saw him play for. For my money, he top 3 lists are difficult and treacherous.
Yeah.
But if we did a simple comparison without looking at achievements, trophies, he was a more complete footballer, far more complete footballer than Cristiano Ronaldo. And if we could do this Frankenstein's laboratory and put Cristiano's extraordinary athleticism, extraordinary will to dominate, to push everything aside, to be the best, which is something that is probably under-examined, and probably sometimes we mock Cristiano for wanting it so much, and I hate that. I really admire that. If you could apply that to my career, then I'd be retired by now. And if Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, had that utter, ruthless desire to be the best and stay the best instead of enjoying life, then there wouldn't be a debate. Ronaldo would be the all-time number 1.
Yeah, fair enough. I wanted to ask you a little bit about a couple of things, in particular Barca's performance last night. Their form is patchy at the moment, and they got their fill of it last night in Prague against Slavia Prague, but they came away with a win. Is this one of those group stages matches where all that really matters ultimately is making sure that you're grand at the end of the standings and that you're going through and you've got the top seed from the group?
It depends whose colours you wear. I'm a real football romantic, and although I've earned my living a great deal from being in the same city as the greatest Barcelona team of all time, teams, and because I wrote a book about them and a film about them, I'm associated with them. My love is for football, not for them, and Aberdeen miles beyond them. I don't carry Barca colours, and therefore, standing back objectively, what I saw was 90 minutes of just an extraordinary football match. I absolutely adored. The warning signs were there. I haven't seen Slavia this season. The warning signs came from Valverde pre-match error. So the 90 minutes that we witnessed that you've been talking about there, I'm not sure if either of you, your attentions might have been drawn elsewhere last night in the Champions League, and I would understand that because there were some truly big games. Valverde's tone in the press conference before the match told you exactly, it wasn't fear, but how much he respected the quality that Slavia had, but the brand of football that they proposed. You could have begun calling it toe-to-toe, but when those toes kept running them past Barca players, then you had to abandon that idea. Slavia's wit, their creativity, their energy, and it wasn't buzz bomb, will just outwork Football Club Barcelona, although they outran them, I guess, totally by 12, 13 kilometres on the night. The passing, the speed of passing, the work for each other. Slavia were a joy to watch. It was one of the most thrilling 90 minutes I can remember for many, many years. And therefore, not being a Barca fan, I looked at them and I saw things to like. I saw a huge deluge of Barca fans on the internet subsequent to the game, dumping on their team. We're trash away from home. Suarez is an idiot. Just the abuse was endless. They're not fully formed right now. Their main central cog, Sergio Busquets, is suffering athletically. His form in the last 2 games, he's done things with the ball that resemble the old Sergio Busquets, and De Jong and Artur have their ups and downs. Two young men still learning positional football. They're both extremely good, but neither of them has been trained in the Barca way, and therefore Busquets is sometimes underprotected or left looking for guys to pass the ball to instantly that resemble what Xavi and Iniesta did, and those guys aren't there. So there was stuff to see when Barca attacked. There was a cogent plan. There was a team play. They made umpteen chances. The game should have been 6-5 to one of the two sides. And therefore, Valverde will come away with a really clear idea that his team is at it mentally, that they're competitive again, and that two things need to happen. His training of how the midfield supports Busquets and close the lines so that there aren't so many gaps and keep the ball better. That's one pending task. And the other one is getting fitter, because just as we saw at Anfield, there is now a mode whereby they think they can keep the ball so they don't need to be ultra dynamic like some of the elite teams in Europe are now. But when they don't keep the ball, they get trampled on. And that's the two pending tasks that come out of last night. But just in terms, if you wanted to spend an evening and you couldn't get to Prague watching football, that was the one to choose. It was extraordinary.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I mean, looking at last night's fixtures elsewhere, we were speaking about Liverpool a moment ago, but I think Chelsea kind of has this greater significance at the moment. Like, whenever we think of great young, bright managers at the moment, we're usually reading about it in La Liga, or particularly the Bundesliga at the moment. So I'd be very interested to get your take on Frank Lampard and what he's done so far. Like, there's kind of two sides of the fence in terms of whether or not the transfer ban has helped or hindered him, has been forced into a youthful style, or a youthful kind of age profile when it comes to this team. I'd like to kind of take the optimistic view on it and say that Lampard is actually an excellent manager and excellent working with kids, and he's got a squad of players that he can mould into a great European side. Like, winning in Amsterdam is no small feat.
I agree with you, and I think they merited it, albeit I actually moan about Quincy's offside goal, which was by 100th of a millimetre. I came over to your country in summer, where Chelsea were training, and I spent a day out in that beautiful country lodge where they worked for a week. And the first thing I'd answer you by saying is that what we saw last night and what we've seen increasingly regularly is exactly what Frank Lampard said in the interview that I did with him was their number one priority, which was to increase intensity in transitions. He felt that he'd inherited a squad whereby they were very good in the ball, and that bringing it forward or passing it forward was something that he'd inherited from Sarri, and that when possession broke down, the intensity of recuperation, that sort of we'll gradually troop back, and at some stage we'll have it again, and then off we go again. That wasn't good enough for him. I think that Chelsea have become a side whereby the first thing that they do is that they're at least as quick, maybe quicker with the ball than under Sarri. It's a little bit less developed play, but it's a version of what they had last season, and that makes sense because some of the key footballers that made that system work, what was it, a final, a winning final in top four, so Sarri's performance was good. Frank Lampard knew he was inheriting, a more than decent squad. And the work that they wanted to do, and I say they because I think it's really important, genuinely, when you were putting a magnifying glass on what you've seen of Frank Lampard so far. I respect hugely the fact that Joe Edwards was a successful youth coach when Chelsea were consistently winning the UEFA Youth League, and some of those pupils have come through. I think Jody Morris is an exceptional coach.
Right.
Much undervalued as a footballer. I think that he is a really, really good organizer, tactician, teacher. And Frank Lampard is football bright and a leader, and also somebody who gives off, you both have met because you're multi-sport. There are certain sports people, men and women, who just exude character, leadership. There's a certain, what would you call it, charisma. And Lampard has that. So accepting his football brain, he is a born leader. A combination of three men, I think, has made Chelsea exciting to watch. I think it's brought, notable things. Pulisic doesn't get a lot of game time, yet you can see that his development is continuing. Tammy Abraham was a guy who many people thought, Gerald will have his views, had too many opportunities to score the goals that he got at Aston Villa. I put a little punt on at the beginning of the season. I said that Tammy Abraham might compete to be one of the top 2-3 scorers in the Premier League at the end of this season, and I did that because I fully expected him, one, to keep Giroud out of the team regularly, two, to be served well, and three, to be taught a lot about finishing. I think that's happening. And I'll finish by saying that, in my opinion, the bedrock of a team that Lampard and Jody Morris particularly want to play this way, to have Jorginho and Kante, is just a gift from the heavens for them. Jorginho is, I couldn't believe the grief he was given by some media in England last season. Jorginho, to my mind, is an extraordinary footballer. Pair him with Kante, and then you got your spine. You're working on what else to do to add filigree. So they were lucky men as coaches to inherit those two.
Graham, great to have you with us again. Thanks a million for joining us.
You too.